We have three people carrying microphones, so we can listen to John and then have a chance to ask our questions. Move forward if you want to be closer in.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? I'm a little hoarse. Just got over a cold, so sorry about that. But anyway, I'm also sorry that I'm not sure why it happened, but obviously a lot of the dissolves were kind of strange, and I'm not sure whether I had sent the wrong video, but you may not have noticed. But anyway, those of us who are in the field, we're always worried about every little bit of perfect video and stuff like that. So, but anyway, I'm not going to say too much. It was an honor for me to make this film, to meet Stewart Udall's family. I thought that I had met Stewart back in 1988 when I did an interview with him about the Grand Canyon dams and the struggle with David Brower over the dams. And I was so impressed when I interviewed Stewart. That was at Channel 9. And when he said, you know, this guy showed me I was wrong. He changed my mind. And for that, I'm in his debt. No question about it. He not only changed Stewart's mind, Brower made it impossible for Stewart Udall to run even for dog catcher in the state of Arizona after Udall came out against the Grand Canyon Dam. So, you know, we just don't hear that kind of thing from political figures, that it's, you know, I was wrong, I made a mistake. I honor the people who showed me I was wrong. So when I saw a notice in the New York Times or Washington Post, I don't remember even now, about one of those 100 years ago today things, Stewart Udall was born, I thought, well, God, I remember him. He was so amazing. I wonder if anybody's done a film about him. And I was surprised to find out that no one had, especially because he was a nationally prominent figure. There's just a wealth, as you could see. He was photographed everywhere, you know. And so it was a dream for a filmmaker to have that amount of archival footage and film and stuff. And so I thought, well, I got to try to do this. And I ended up contacting Stewart's son, Dennis, first. And we met in the Bay Area in El Cerrito, California. We had coffee. And, you know, Dennis said, well, a couple people had approached the subject before, but they'd never been able to do anything. And he said, but let's talk about it. And when we did, when we finished, he said, well, I really like your approach, what you want to do with this. And so I'm going to introduce you to all my brothers and sisters. And that he did. And from then, the project kind of took off. So anyway, your questions. I'm not going to, I always enjoy answering questions, but I don't want to go on and on here.
So when did that encounter take place when you met with his family?
Where did the encounter take place?
When?
When? Oh, I met Dennis in 2020. I met the other kids probably in 2021 when I was right during COVID. You know, we were doing our shooting all during the middle of COVID. So in New Mexico and on the East Coast and in California at Point Reyes and all of those kind of things. So yeah, it was right during that period. There were these little breaks in the action with COVID, which you probably remember. There would be a little period of a month or two, and they'd give you the green light that you could go out and do things. And we were lucky being from the state of Washington, because other states recognized us as being one of the best states for results, having among the least amount of COVID. And so those states like Massachusetts and New Mexico would allow people to come there from Washington State, and we were the only state in the West they allowed that from. So you should be proud to be from Washington. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for us to do this. But we had a window where we could go to Massachusetts, where we did some of this, and Washington, D.C., and then where we could go to New Mexico, Arizona, and so forth to do the filming.
So you have put this entire project together in that length of time.
Well, we finished it in September of 2022, so it's actually been done almost 2 years now. So it took about 2 years to do it. Yeah, so.
Just amazing.
Oh, thank you. But if you get the resources, you could do things quite quickly. It took us a while. That was the big issue. Was it took quite a while for us to get the startup money to really start doing the shooting and things. And believe it or not, we got that money from the New Mexico Power Company. Now, call it greenwashing or whatever, but they're in the process of closing coal-fired plants and going to solar, which was happening all over Arizona and New Mexico. The Navajo tribe got rid of their horrible Navajo generator, the big coal plant, and replaced it with a solar array. Some people complain about that because they don't like the look of solar arrays. But I'll tell you, the Navajo are very happy because they have electricity from that. It's non-polluting, and it's a section of the reservation, not that big an area. So I think Stewart would have believed in that. I mean, he wasn't alive to see it, but I think he would have. So yeah, that's how long it took. Once we got the first money from New Mexico Power, we then started getting funding from other sources, and we had a very successful crowdfunding Kickstarter campaign for the film. So, and then we got it done.
Where did you get the historical films? Did they come from the Library of Commerce?
Well, we got it from different sources. So some of it, a lot of the photographs came from the University of Arizona Library. They have the Stewart Udall collection and the Mo Udall collection there. They also had some moving footage, not too much. Most of the moving footage that we got came from the Kennedy Library and the Lyndon Johnson Library. So we got the stuff of Udall traveling around with Kennedy, from the Kennedy Library, traveling with Lady Bird from the Lyndon Johnson Library, and so forth. And we got then, the only footage we had, and we got it all free, which made it very nice, with the exception, the only footage we had to pay for was the Vietnam War footage, which we had to buy from a private company. But all the rest was, they gave it to us, and the University of Arizona was incredibly supportive on all of this. I think they're very proud of Stewart. Yes. Do you want the microphone?
I was so moved. This is just beautiful.
Thank you.
And I was wondering how one could acquire a copy of the film.
Well, I probably shouldn't say this too loudly, but you can get it from Amazon. You can also get it from the distributor, which is Bullfrog Films, but they let Amazon sell it too. So, but if you go to bullfrogfilms.com, it's actually a little more expensive to buy it from Bullfrog Films than to buy it from Amazon, and you won't get it the next day. So this is the world we live in. But anyway, it costs about $21 from Amazon and about $25 from Bullfrog for DVDs, and then there are other ways you can get it as well.
So I have sort of two questions. One has to do with, how do you build the script just to put this together? In other words, you have a storyline or a something. How did you go from the start to the finish? And then the second one is just like, where did those amazing photographs of all that fabulous outdoors and those wilderness come from?
Well, the current footage, like I said, the archival stuff came from those libraries and the University of Arizona. The current footage was shot by my camera guy, Greg Davis, who I worked with for 25 years at Channel 9. Greg is a terrific photographer, and I must say, as the proud father, that all the stuff of the Pacific Northwest with the lakes and glaciers and waterfalls was shot by my son, who is a pretty amazing, primarily still photographer, but he also does video, and he has about 105,000 followers on Instagram for his, and he's always in the mountains, or going somewhere. So I'm always telling him, you know, the kids now, they do everything vertically. That's, you know, because so they can do it on their phone, see it on their phone. And so I'm always telling David, I can't use vertical video. You have to shoot it horizontal. You know, if you want it in the film, shoot it horizontal. So he's getting better because he's always thinking about TikTok and he's getting better about it, and he keeps shooting good stuff. So we're happy, and we'll use some in the next film as well. I want to tell you a couple little stories. Well, one little story, which is a fun one for me. How many of you get sometimes calls on your phone that say spam risk? Anybody? Yeah, a few of you. Well, I was in a motel in New Mexico in 2022, and I was traveling around showing the film, and I get one of these calls, and it says spam risk. And this little voice in my head said, answer this, because I don't usually do that. And so I answered it, and the woman on the other end, hi, this is Devin. I forget her last name. She says, I'm the assistant to Ambassador Tom Udall, calling you from New Zealand. And Tom wanted me to call you. He wanted me to tell you that he had just done a personal screening of your film for the ambassador to Australia, who just happens to be Caroline Kennedy. And that watching the film together, they were able to talk about their childhoods and their dads. And the other one that I got was an email from a guy whose name is why am I having a senior moment on his first name? I hate it when this happens. His last name is McNamara, and you probably recognize that name. And so he wrote to me and said, I saw your film. And he said, you know, I knew Stu Udall well, and my father and Stewart were good friends, and we went backpacking together with the Udall kids and everything, and they knew each other. He says, but I never knew. He said, I was against the Vietnam War. I was a high school kid, and I was protesting the war that my father was running, basically. And he said, I never knew that Stewart was against the war because my dad didn't talk about that. He never told me. He said, so seeing your film, it gives me even more respect for Stewart, who I liked anyway, but I didn't even know his position on Vietnam. And then he said, what I come away from seeing the film is that this world would be a far better place if my dad had listened to Stewart Udall. So, Craig McNamara is his name. It always comes back to you eventually. The story, I work on doing a lot of research first, reading biographies, reading all kinds of things, and then I make a kind of an outline of where I think that what is the story, and then we go out and shoot, and we interview people, and once we get all the material together and logged, as we say, or transcribed the interviews and all of that, then I use that to write a script, which we then edit from. Now, I don't always do it that way, but I usually do it that way. But I'm working on a new film now where I've actually written much of the script in advance, and that's not something I normally do, but it just happens to work in this particular case, I think.
What's the subject of that?
Pardon?
What is the general subject of that new?
The new film. Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you. I didn't, he's not a plant or anything like that, but the subject of that, it's called Loyal to the Truth. Oh, what is the subject of my new film? I'm sorry. Yeah. It's called Loyal to the Truth, and it is the untold story of the song that you hear a lot in the Udall film, America the Beautiful. And that is a fascinating story. The song is nothing like most Americans think it is. It's actually quite a critique of American society, of the Gilded Age, of the Spanish-American War, of all kinds of things. It was written by a very progressive woman named Catherine Lee Bates, who was a professor at Wellesley College and a suffragist and activist and a settlement house worker, and involved in so many things, especially in opposition to the Spanish-American War. She actually went to Spain, but she tried to get in during the war, but they wouldn't let her in. So, but then when the war ended, she was allowed to go to Spain, and she did reports for the New York Times about what the war had done to these Spanish families, how many of them had lost fathers and brothers, and how well they treated her, and that they didn't hold this against her. And she wrote a lot about this. It was very interesting. And then she wrote in the song, you'll see we usually just sing the first verse, which is, beautiful for spacious skies, etc. But one of the verses goes, America, America, God mend thine every flaw, confirm thy soul in self-control. And this is about imperialism. This is about her view that, and it also related to her feelings about some of what we were doing with the Native Americans. So she has one of the other verses is, America, America, may God thy gold refine, sort of Stewart's. And the first time when she wrote it first, that verse ended, till selfish gain no longer stains the banner of the free. Well, later she changed that and softened it a bit, but still, I think she decided that she wanted a more metaphorical and not so in your face kind of song. And of course it did, but it's just the song. It allows us to tell the story of the Gilded Age, Spanish-American War, the First World War, women's suffrage, and many of those things that were going on at that time, and make some comparisons to the present, so. Pardon? Oh, the author of the words, Catherine Lee Bates. The music was composed by a fellow named Samuel Augustus Ward. There was no connection between the two. They didn't even know each other. But his tune was put to the song. In fact, before 1910, after it first came out, there were 75 different versions of the song. Everybody just sang it however they felt like it. So, well, I'm probably keeping you too long, but if there's any other.
What was the name of the song?
America the Beautiful. And
Do you think Udall would have been upset about that last picture in the film?
I don't think.
of the which film? The picture of the solar panels? Oh no, he would have loved it.
Yes.
Absolutely loved it. Because for him, that was progress. That this wasn't about getting everything you want. This is about making steady progress. And this made a big difference for the Navajo people whom he loved. And it also, provided much less polluting energy. I mean, when you see what went down, the Navajo generating plant in Page, Arizona, the Navajo generating plant was probably the most polluting piece of machinery in the entire world. You could see it from space, and the pollution that came from that plant. And ironically, that plant was done because Udall stopped the Grand Canyon dams. So the coal-fired plant was put in as a trade-off to allow the energy for pumping the water into the desert for the Central Arizona project. And Udall conceded it at the time. There were things that he conceded that later he wished he hadn't conceded, of course. But I think he would just. I know that his kids are very happy about that's the biggest solar array in the country. That one on the Navajo Nation, also right near Page, Arizona, right near the former Navajo generating plant. Mm-hmm. So I'm not. I mean, I think there's a fair discussion to have about whether we should be doing those big solar things and everything, but I think in this particular case, it's very justified, and I think the Navajo wanted that, and they deserved it because people there didn't have electricity. They had that coal-fired plant, and very few people were getting any electric power from it, which is what the woman talks about, Carla the Chief. So now they get it, at least not everywhere on the Navajo Nation, but many more places today than before.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Putting you all to sleep.
No. I want to know about Sharon Francis now and all these other sorts of things. But thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon.
thank you, Gene, for inviting me, and some of the people that I know here, and thank for you, May and John, for coming up with the idea initially and bringing me here tonight. So I truly appreciate it. This is a great place, and it's fun to be here. Thank you.